Chapter 12, The Final Gate. The final gate stood before them, a massive arch of black stone veined with crimson light that pulsed like a living heart. Ethan Cole felt the weight of 11 fragments resonating in his chest, their whispers no longer separate but a unified hum that vibrated through his bones. The air around the gate shimmered with heat, though no fire burned, and the stone floor beneath his boots was etched with grooves that formed spirals leading inward. Vera stood beside him, her pale face calm in the harsh glow. Her dark hair stirred in a wind that came from nowhere, and her eyes, those ancient eyes that had seen decades of Blackhaven's grey corridors, reflected the gate's light with an almost peaceful acceptance. She wore a simple white dress now, as if she had shed all pretense of armor. Her bare feet rested on the cold stone. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she said softly. "In a terrible way." Ethan's throat was tight. He reached for her hand, and she let him take it. Her fingers were cold, but they gripped his with surprising strength. "We don't have to do this," he said. "There's still time. I can find another way, maybe the fragments, maybe the Bureau's research." "Ethan." Vera turned to face him fully. Her smile was sad, but there was no bitterness in it. "I've been a fragment for longer than you've been alive. I've waited in the dark corners of Blackhaven, watching people come and go, hoping that one day someone would reach the end. You're that someone. Don't stop now because of me. You're not just a fragment." His voice cracked. "You're a person. You have memories, feelings, a will of your own. I won't sacrifice you for a chance at salvation that might not work. It will work." She lifted her free hand and touched his cheek. Her palm was cool. "Because I believe in you. And because I've seen what you can do. You didn't just survive the trials, you understood them. You saw the pain in the aberrations and offered them peace. You refused to become a monster. If anyone can finish this, it's you." Ethan closed his eyes. The fragments hummed louder, as if agreeing. Behind his lids, he saw flashes: the drowned children, the burned actress, the broken professor, the forgotten patient, all the souls he had encountered and, in his own way, helped to rest. "I don't want to lose you," he whispered. "You won't lose me. I'll be part of you. Part of the new world. And maybe, when it's over, I'll be able to live as a real person for the first time." She stepped closer and pressed her forehead against his. "Let me give you this. Let me be the key." The gate groaned, a deep sound like stone shifting under immense pressure. The crimson veins brightened, casting long shadows across the chamber. Behind them, the corridor that led back to Blackhaven had collapsed. The 9th Bureau's forces had retreated after Maya's sacrifice, but they had sealed the exits. There was no going back. Ethan opened his eyes. He stared into Vera's unwavering gaze, and he saw in her the same determination he had seen in Maya when she stood against the Bureau's weapons. A decision made with full knowledge of the cost. He nodded, once. Vera smiled, and her smile was radiant, like the first light after a storm. She released his hand, turned toward the gate, and began walking. Her bare feet made no sound on the stone. As she approached, the crimson veins stretched out from the arch like tendrils, reaching for her. She did not flinch. The first tendril touched her shoulder, and she glowed. Light bloomed from within her, soft at first, then brighter, until Ethan had to shield his eyes. He heard her voice, not as sound but as thought. "I'm ready." The light engulfed her. Her form dissolved into particles of white and gold that streamed toward the center of the arch, where they coalesced into a vortex. The gate's stone groaned louder, and the floor trembled. A crack appeared in the center of the arch, widening into a fissure of pure white. Then the light exploded outward, and Ethan was lifted off his feet. He opened his eyes to a world of gray. Not the gray of Blackhaven, that was a living gray, thick with trapped souls and forgotten time. This gray was empty. A void without texture, without sound, without direction. He floated in it, bodiless, his consciousness adrift. Then the gray peeled back like a curtain, and he saw a city. It was a city he recognized from photographs and old films, the world before the gray, before the bloodgates, before everything fell apart. Skyscrapers gleamed under a blue sky. Cars moved along wide boulevards. People walked on sidewalks, talking, laughing, living ordinary lives. But as he watched, a shadow spread across the sky. It came from the east, where the horizon had begun to fray. The shadow was not black but a deep, sickly grey, and it rolled forward like a tide. People in the streets stopped and looked up. Some screamed. Others stood frozen, their faces slack with incomprehension. The grey touched the first building, and the building crumbled. Not into rubble but into dust that swirled upward, joining the grey. The people touched by the grey did not die, they twisted. Their limbs elongated, their faces stretched, their eyes turned hollow and white. They became shapes of hunger and despair. Ethan tried to look away, but he had no eyes. He was only awareness, pinned to the scene. And then a voice spoke. It was calm, measured, the voice of a man who had spent years explaining the inexplicable. The grey is not a natural force. It is a wound. A tear in the fabric of reality, caused by humanity's own reach for power beyond its grasp. The scene shifted. He was inside a laboratory now, all white walls and humming machines. A man stood before a massive diagram of a tree, the world tree, its roots spanning the globe, its branches touching the stars. The man was older, with silver hair and tired eyes, and Ethan recognized him from the old photograph, Dr. Aldrich Vane. I discovered the tear too late. By the time I understood what it was, the grey had already consumed 3 continents. I had spent my life studying the world tree, the latent energy that connects all living things. I believed I could use that energy to heal the wound. A reset. The laboratory vanished, replaced by a forest. But the trees were grey and leafless, their trunks twisted into agonized shapes. Dr. Vane walked among them, touching each one, his face gaunt. The tree's power is not gentle. It is a force of creation and destruction woven together. To reset the world, I had to channel that force through a system that could survive the strain. I built Black Haven. I designed the blood gates. I seeded them with fragments of my own consciousness, hoping that some survivor, could collect the fragments and reach the final gate. But there was a cost. Every reset requires a sacrifice. Not just of the key, but of every living being that exists in the current timeline. The grey is not destroyed, it is undone. The world begins again, clean and pure, but the people you know, the memories you carry, the lives that have been lived, they are erased. Ethan understood now. The architect's plan was not salvation. It was deletion. The forest dissolved, and he found himself standing, solid again, in a vast circular chamber. The walls were lined with roots, glowing faintly with golden light. At the center of the chamber, a single seed hung suspended in the air, no larger than his fist. It pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Dr. Vane stood beside the seed, his form translucent, projected from some long-dead recording. He looked at Ethan with an expression that was almost apologetic. "You have done well to come this far," the projection said. "The fragments have merged within you. You carry the memories of the trials, the pain of the aberrations, the hope of those who fell. You are the candidate I designed." Ethan stepped forward. "I won't do it. I won't let you erase everyone. It is the only way to save the world." "No. You're wrong. The world isn't just a machine you can reboot. The aberrations weren't evil, they were hurt. The people in Black Haven aren't expendable, they're trying to survive. And Vera," his voice broke. "Vera gave herself to open this gate, not to be erased again." The projection's eyes flickered. "She was created from a fragment. She knows her purpose. She is a person," Ethan shouted, and his voice echoed through the chamber. The seed pulsed faster, as if responding to his anger. "She chose to come here because she believed I could find another way. And I will." Dr. Vane's form rippled. "There is no other way. I spent decades searching. The tree's energy is binary, creation or destruction. To purify the grey, you must undo the timeline. There is no middle path. Then I'll make one." Ethan strode toward the seed. As he approached, he felt the fragments within him stir 11 distinct voices, each carrying a piece of understanding. The shadow theater taught him to see through lies. The drowned village taught him compassion. The campus of rules taught him that even broken systems have cracks. The asylum taught him that memory is a fragile weapon. The carousel taught him that childhood is not lost, only hidden. And beyond the fragments, he felt the thread of his own existence, the childhood that might have been his, the memories the architect had planted, the life swap that had made him a puppet. But he was no puppet. He had chosen, over and over, to act with his own will. He reached the seed. It hovered at eye level, pulsing with golden light. When he extended his hand, the light flickered and wrapped around his fingers. The projection of Dr. Vane faded, replaced by a voice that seemed to come from the seed itself. Asterisk, you cannot control the tree. It will consume you. Asterisk. Maybe, Ethan said. But I've been inside the minds of aberrations. I've felt their pain, their confusion, their longing. They don't want to be erased either. They want to be healed. And maybe that's the key, not reset, but purification. Not destruction, but understanding. He closed his hand around the seed. Pain lanced through him, white-hot, as if he had grabbed a live wire. The seed's energy surged into his arm, spreading through his chest, his legs, his head. He felt himself unraveling, his thoughts scattering like leaves in a hurricane. But he held on. He thought of Maya, her steady hands, her quiet strength, her sacrifice. He thought of Silas, twisted by his own ambition, who had died laughing because he believed Ethan was a puppet. He thought of the drowned children, the burned actress, the lonely professor, the forgotten patient. All of them had been broken by the grey, but none of them had deserved their fate. They had only wanted someone to see their pain. Ethan saw them. He saw them all, and he accepted them. He let go of his own identity, piece by piece. He became the ferryman, the bridge between the corrupted and the pure. He channeled the world tree's energy not as a weapon of reset but as a wave of empathy, washing through the grey, touching each aberration, each wounded soul, and offering them a choice. Asterisk, be whole again. Asterisk. The seed blazed brighter. And then he was everywhere. He saw Black Haven from above, its walls dissolving into light. He saw the survivors, Jack, Lena Park, and others staring in wonder as the grey lifted from their world. He saw Maya's body, still and cold, but now bathed in light that seemed to pass through her, marking her sacrifice. He saw Vera, not as a key but as a spark, flickering in the heart of the gate, waiting to be reborn. The grey recoiled. It was not a thing of malice, he realized, but a thing of absence. A wound that had festered. And wounds could be healed, if someone was willing to hold the needle. He held the needle. Time stretched. He felt the seed dissolve into him, and he dissolved into the seed. His consciousness merged with the world tree, becoming part of its ancient, endless rhythm. He saw the root systems that extended through the earth, the branches that touched the heavens. He saw the cycle of life, death, and renewal that had existed long before humans, long before the grey. And he made a choice. Not to reset. Not to erase. But to purify, to strip the grey of its power while leaving the timeline intact. The world would not be reborn, it would be restored. The aberrations would not be undone, they would be healed. The dead would remain dead, but their echoes would no longer be twisted into hunger. The cost was himself. He felt his human form fading, his memories dispersing into the tree's vast consciousness. But in that moment, he also felt a hand, a presence, warm and familiar, pulling him back. Asterisk, you promised you wouldn't lose me. Asterisk. Vera's voice. She was there, a tiny flame in the golden light, clinging to him. Asterisk, we can do this together. Asterisk, she said. Asterisk, you don't have to disappear. Hold on to me. Asterisk. He reached for her, and their spirits intertwined. The tree accepted them both, weaving them into its design. The purification surged outward, a wave of golden light that washed over the world. Ethan opened his eyes to a blue sky. He was lying on soft grass, the blades cool against his cheek. The air smelled of earth and rain, not the stale antiseptic of Black Haven. He sat up slowly, his body aching as if he had been submerged for hours. Vera lay beside him, her dark hair spread across the grass, her dress now a simple green. She was breathing, slowly, evenly. Alive. He touched her shoulder, and her eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, and for a moment there was no recognition. Then her lips curved into a smile. "You found another way," she said. He helped her sit up. Around them, the world was green and alive. The sky was blue, with clouds drifting lazily. A forest stretched in all directions, the trees healthy and full. In the distance, a bird sang. "Where are we?" Vera asked. "I don't know." Ethan looked down at his hands, real hands, with dirt under the nails. He was wearing ordinary clothes, jeans, a jacket, boots. No sign of the gate, no trace of the fragments. "I think we're back. In the real world. The one before the grey." Vera stood, unsteady. He supported her elbow. "Is it over?" He thought of the architect, of the final gate, of the grey receding like a tide. He thought of Maya, of Silas, of all the faces he had seen. He didn't know if they were still alive, or if they had been reborn, or if they had finally found peace. But the grey was gone. He could feel it, in the quiet of the forest, in the absence of that constant pressure he had carried since the first bus. "Yes," he said. "It's over." They walked through the forest for a long time. Eventually they emerged onto a road, and a car stopped to pick them up. The driver was an elderly man who hummed a song Ethan didn't recognize. He dropped them at a small town with a diner and a gas station. It was ordinary, unremarkable, and perfect. Ethan found a payphone and tried to call Maya's old number. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail, a woman's voice, cheerful, announcing that the mailbox was full. He hung up. Vera was standing by the diner window, looking out at the street. She had bought a coffee with money Ethan had found in his jacket pocket. She seemed younger now, less burdened. "What do we do now?" she asked. Ethan didn't have an answer. He was a software engineer who had no job, no home, no identity in this world. He was a man with memories of trials and doors and fragments, and a woman who was once a piece of a dead scientist's plan. "We live," he said. "We find a way." She nodded, and they sat together in the diner, watching the sun set. 3 months later, on a cool autumn night, a young man named Kevin Park stood at a bus stop in the outskirts of a city he had moved to for work. He was tired, his briefcase heavy, his phone battery low. The bus was late. He checked the schedule, 11:47 p.m. The last bus. The street was empty, the shops closed, the streetlights casting pools of yellow light. Kevin pulled his jacket tighter and sighed. He hated night shifts. His phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. He opened it. The message was short. "Don't take the last bus. Kevin stared at the screen. He typed a reply. "Who is this? No response. He looked up. The headlights of a bus appeared at the end of the street, approaching slowly. The number on the front was his bus. He thought of the message. A prank. A wrong number. He laughed and shook his head. He was too tired for games. He stepped forward as the bus pulled in, its doors hissing open. The driver was a gaunt man with dark circles under his eyes. He didn't look at Kevin. "Last bus," the driver said. Kevin hesitated. The message flashed in his mind. "Don't take the last bus. But it was late, and he was tired, and the next bus wouldn't come until morning. He stepped up, swiped his card, and found a seat near the back. The bus pulled away, its engine humming. Kevin leaned his head against the cold window and closed his eyes. He didn't see the other passengers, they were all sitting motionless, their eyes fixed straight ahead. He didn't see the fog that began to gather on the road. He didn't see the black manor that loomed at the end of the line. He only felt a chill, a faint whisper at the edge of his hearing, and the strange sensation that someone, somewhere, was watching him. And then the bus drove on into the night. Far away, in a small diner, Ethan Cole paid for his coffee and stood up. Vera was asleep in the booth, her head resting on her arms. He touched her shoulder gently, and she stirred. "Time to go," she murmured. "Yeah." He looked out the window at the stars. The grey was gone, but the world was fragile. He had changed something at the root, but the wound was deep. There would be others, he knew others who would face the same choice, the same test. He didn't know if he would ever see that bus stop again, or if the young man on that bus would survive. But he had done what he could. He had purified the grey without destroying the world. And now, for the first time in what felt like forever, he had a future. He helped Vera to her feet, and they walked out into the cool night air. "Do you think we'll ever feel normal?" she asked. He smiled, a tired but genuine smile. "No. But maybe that's okay." They walked down the street, hand in hand, leaving the diner's light behind. The night was dark, but the stars were bright. And somewhere, a bus carried a young man toward a trial he did not yet understand. The cycle, it seemed, was not finished. But that was a story for another time.